and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it.
a day of humiliation for Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, I'm not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's a friend of mine.
He's battered by President Trump and squirmed throughout.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Oh, great. And then Bev Turner skewered him about the Orwellian Online Safety Act.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and
mean
Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, Bev herself is still in Scotland, and she's going to tell us all about what went on in that room between President Trump and Sir Keir Starmer. Absolutely heroic stuff from Bev Turner there. Iconic. Anyway, in other news.
There's a lot of people.
GB News might have uncovered another massive site that could be used to house asylum seekers. Plus,
Yeah, I am a Dutch geezer.
Why are you getting so angry for? What do you mean off you go? I'm just standing in me.
oh, I'll stand up to racism, sending bullies to intimidate citizen journalists. On my panel tonight, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, we've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform Party member and former MP Sir Jake Berry. Oh, and by the way, how good is this?
Grateful to wear this badge, and I'm so proud to be English.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. President Trump sat Sir Keir Starmer on his knee and told him who his daddy was. Next.
Let's get you up to date with the headlines. Very good evening to you. Donald Trump has acknowledged there is real starvation happening in Gaza and has urged Israel to allow every ounce of food into the region. He's been holding talks with Sir Keir Starmer as part of his 4-day trip to Scotland. Now, the Prime Minister presented a European-led Middle East peace plan during his bilateral meeting, which the Prime Minister will discuss in an emergency cabinet meeting this week. Mr. Trump also set Vladimir Putin a new shorter deadline to agree a ceasefire for the war in Ukraine of 10 or 12 days. And Mr. Trump says urgent action is needed in Gaza to bring an end to the suffering.
It's a terrible situation. The whole thing is terrible. It's been bad for many years. But it's great to hear you feel the same way that I do. We have to help on a humanitarian basis before we do anything. We have to get the kids fed. Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't want to give up these last 20, because they think as long as we have them, they have protection. But I don't think it can work that way. So I'm speaking to Bibi Netanyahu, and we are coming up with various plans. We're going to say it's a very difficult situation.
England's women's football team have been warmly welcomed home after their Euro 2025 victory over Spain. They landed earlier at Southend Airport to cheering crowds and then attended at 10 Downing Street for a special reception. The new European champions, or the defending European champions, I should say, becoming the first English team to win a major tournament on foreign soil. The reception was hosted by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, who said the Lionesses are a shining example of talent and excitement for women's football. And they will be greeted warmly by bigger crowds in central London tomorrow with an open-top bus parade near Buckingham Palace. Reform UK said it would scrap the Online Safety Act. The party argues the measure is intended to force social media companies to limit false and potentially harmful content would instead be a dystopian infringement of free speech. Leader Nigel Farage, though, acknowledged his party does not have a perfect answer for what could replace it. The older brother of the Oasis stars Noel and Liam Gallagher has been charged with rape and a number of other violent offences. Paul Gallagher from East Finchley in North London is also accused of sexual assault, coercive control, strangulation and making threats to kill, which are alleged to have taken place between 2022 and 2024. He's due to appear in court next month. And the King has marked a series of anniversaries linked to the nuclear industry on a visit to the north of Scotland. He went to Scrabster Harbour near Caithness. It marks 70 years since engineers at the Doornray site first began experimenting with nuclear energy. And the visit also celebrated 50 years of Pacific Nuclear Transport Limited and 20 years of the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 9, but now it's over to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Today's meeting with President Trump was a total car crash for the Prime Minister. Free speech in Sir Keir Starmer's Britain is under serious threat. Everybody knows it, and it's a weak spot for him. A weak spot that our very own Bev Turner stuck her thumb into when she questioned the PM alongside President Trump earlier today.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
And then Bev drilled into him again about online censorship.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone.
Well, it's not true, is it? Let's have a look at the facts, shall we? The Online Safety Act has already hidden reports on Pakistani rape gangs and blocked footage of migrant hotel protests. Just wait until the new Islamophobia definition comes into force under Sir Keir Starmer, and that could mean that anybody wanting to complain about the construction of a multi-million-pound mega mosque in rural Cumbria will presumably be an Islamophobe. The PM has just approved an elite police task force to track online posts about immigration. Gosh, well, last week I made a mockery of his claims that he was smashing the gangs. You are a human trafficker, aren't you?
Are there?
Yes. Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain?
Go.
Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain? So if you have a look quickly, just quickly, right? Oh, hang on. We can go live now to Sir Keir Starmer's special task force, can we? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Oh, no, what's that? He wants to lock me up. He wants to lock me up. Gosh, oh, well. Anyway, people want to get around draconian online age verification rules by buying a VPN device. Well, now, some in his own party are proposing banning them. So what other countries have banned it? Shall we have a look? Oh, it's North Korea, Belarus, Iraq and Turkmenistan. That's the kind of company we keep in Sir Keir Starmer's Britain. Then it got worse for the PM. President Trump tore into London Mayor Sadiq Khan. And watch what Sir Keir does.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. He's
a friend of mine, actually.
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London.
That's the problem, Prime Minister. You're friends with the bloke everybody hates. President Trump also gave Sir Keir a dressing down about what mass immigration, both legal and illegal, has done and will do to Europe.
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it.
Did anyone else spot Sir Keir stumbling over his words to Donald Trump and the media about small boats?
The President makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both of our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it in all its aspects.
I mean, look, that is BS, isn't it? Sir Keir Starmer's government have paid loads of those people to leave. That's how they're claiming that they've managed to deport people. And how many people who came illegally on boats have been deported? I think the answer might be zero. As our Prime Minister sat there in what was a metaphorical cuckolding chair at President Trump's golf course, he had to listen to the US President tell him about how to become popular, knowing that he can't and won't do any of those things.
You know, politics is pretty simple. I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay, you know, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you know, you have a few basics and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime.
Today just highlighted yet again that Britain is a lion of a country run by a pussycat of a man. Well, let's go up now to Scotland. Fresh from the day's events is GBNews presenter Bev Turner. Bev, look, firstly, unbelievable amounts of congratulations for what you've done there. It just shows really what can be done when you allow someone like yourself into the lion's den to go and just skewer people left, right and centre. So what was it all like for you?
Thank you, Patrick. Look, it wasn't just me in that room today. Christopher Hope was there as well. He asked a brilliant question about tax. It was GB News in that room today. It was you, it was Emily, it was Michelle, it was so many people from GB News in that room today with me, because these are the topics that we talk about every day. This is what matters to people. We are the fearless champion of Britain, are we not? So it was easy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel, frankly. The issues that Donald Trump has done so well on happen to be all the issues that Keir Starmer is resolutely failing on. So you get those two men in the room, and all you have to do is bring up the issues. And I personally, by the end of it, I genuinely felt a bit sorry for Keir Starmer. Like, I didn't know it was going to be so hard for him. I genuinely didn't know those questions would be so difficult. But I think also from a personal point of view, it was so satisfying, because since spring 2020, I've watched these press conferences where the British press have resolutely failed to hold anybody's feet to the fire. So to be in that environment, I was like a coiled spring, because I know what matters, I know what our viewers and our listeners care about, and I just kept batting them at them. It was great, it was joyous, it was genuinely the most satisfying day of my career.
Yeah, well, and it shone through, actually. And again, well done, and thank you for everything. Just one more question with you, Bev, because I know that we're hopefully, anyway, going to get you a little bit later on as well. I've got some more clips I want to dig into, the thing you asked about the farmers, for example. But for me, one of the things that seemed like a real weak spot for Keir Starmer was that issue of free speech. And you pressed him on it, not once, but twice in there. He hates it, doesn't he?
He hates it, and it was my first question to Donald Trump when he got off the plane yesterday, and he swerved it a little bit and he said, I like your Prime Minister, and I thought, I'm not letting this go. So I got the second opportunity today on the steps of Turnberry and asked it again, and Starmer just came out with his platitude. We have a long tradition of free speech. Yeah, we do, and you're ripping it up. So then we went in the room a bit later and I thought, I'm going to bring it out again. I'm not letting this go. So I thought, well, I'll go for the Truth Social angle as well, because of course that's what Donald Trump Trump, that's his social media platform, for anyone that doesn't know. That's his Twitter. And so I just wanted to point out to him, the bloke next to you has the powers now to censor what's on your website. And of course, he doesn't really know. I don't think Donald Trump really understands. He's not, you know, how can he? He's a very busy man. He's got a lot of countries to think about. And it was just a joy, really, to get that over across the room, that the changes that are happening here are so authoritarian. And hopefully I'll get some more time with Donald Trump tomorrow, and I'm flying back with him on the aeroplane. I might just try and get a seat next to him and explain to him exactly what's going on, because somebody needs to tell him.
Well, indeed. Bev, thank you very, very much. Well done. I hope to talk to you again a little bit later on. But, yeah, I mean, Tornado Turner ripped through there, didn't it? So, good stuff. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now, shall we? We've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and, of course, the new Reform Party member, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, just as a bit of an overview that unrelenting squirmathon between Sir Keir Starmer and President Trump. Well, what was your overall take on that?
It looked to me like he'd scuttled up to Scotland. It's quite unusual, I think, for a leader to run up to where the president is at the golf course. He sat there and he looked like his dummy. And, you know, he didn't challenge him on anything. The press conference was a bigger challenge than Keir Starmer was. But I just think it made him look weak. And the stuff that Trump was saying, the stuff he attacked the subsidies on wind turbines. He said that he had to provide cheaper energy. He said the one that tackles immigration is going to win the next election. Spot on everything, and everything he said was everything Keir Starmer is not doing in this country. Yeah. And I think Starmer, you saw him when he met his wife Victoria. There, the two of them. Literally squirming. They couldn't keep their faces straight. Trump is saying what he's saying. Trump was right on everything he said about what we should be doing. Yeah. Starmer never once said, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm running it. Whatever. He let he let the leader of the free world tell him how to run his country.
I thought it was incredibly emasculating. Yes. I thought it was one of the most emasculating things I've ever seen.
But only because Starmer allowed it to be. Because he didn't chip in, he didn't talk. He just sat there like a little boy being told off. He didn't have to just sit there like a little boy.
On that free speech issue, Benjamin, specifically, that Keir Starmer's got his tried and tested line, isn't it, which is we've had a long history of free speech in Britain, a long history of free speech in Britain. OK, well then let's have a look at the fact there's this online immigration task force now. We're going to have the Islamophobia rule, we've got the Online Safety Act, all of that stuff. He can't realistically stand there and say that anymore, can he? He is a threat to free speech, isn't he?
No, not at all. Look, you've tried really hard to pretend that this didn't go well, when quite obviously it's gone very well. The first thing that Donald Trump said is Keir Starmer is, quote-unquote, a very good leader. He said he's dealing with immigration well.
What else is he going to say when he's sitting the foot away from him?
They have a quite remarkably good relationship. That's how they got the trade deal before any of the other countries and organisations got it. You know, Donald Trump has praised Keir Starmer every single juncture. Now, there's no disputing, there's no doubting that they are not natural bedfellows. And quite frankly, I think if you're a patriot, you would take pride in the fact that a British Prime Minister of a very different tradition has managed to befriend someone who was as combative as Trump. And he knew in that meeting today, we're all suggesting he should have argued back on different policies. Donald Trump's allowed to have his views. Keir Starmer knew that doing some kind of Zelensky slight tantrum wasn't going to get him anywhere, because we saw what happened. He behaved with dignity and he behaved as the British Prime Minister.
He behaved like a rabbit caught in the car headlights.
What, do you really think?
That wasn't dignity, that was totally undignified.
In the office of Prime Minister, he is not there to undermine the President. They had a
and the President is not there to undermine him, but he did.
Let's bring Jake into this. Jake, what was your overwhelming takeaway from that session there?
Well, it was an extraordinary scene, wasn't it? I mean, the first thing is that Donald Trump seems to have turned Turnberry. I know he owns large parts of Scotland, but he seems to have turned them into the latest state of the United States, where global leaders, not just our Prime Minister, are sort of going there, kissing the ring and paying homage to him, which I just think is actually quite good for Scotland. I mean, Visit Scotland could not want anything better than the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States spending their holidays in Scotland. It's a great place to go.
And the Cotswolds.
But actually, my takeaway from it was Ursula von der Leyen, European Union President, came over, asked him about a trade deal for Europe. John Swinney, the Scottish First Minister, visited President Trump, asked him about the impact of tariffs on Scotland's economy. Our Prime Minister went and talked to him about Gaza. And what I want to say is, you're not Prime Minister of Gaza, You're Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. You've got the most powerful man in the world in your backyard, as it were, and you go and ask him about a country thousands of miles away. I think the British people want their own Prime Minister, when they get that one-on-one time, to push Britain, not the as sorry as we are about it, not the plight of people thousands of miles away.
OK, I do wonder whether or not that's because, as was possibly identified by Bev Turner there, which is that those issues that really matter to us, Keir Starmer is very weak on, whereas Trump's very strong. And so if he'd have started banging on about that, it would have exacerbated the differences.
Yeah, but the point is,
anyway.
Donald Trump is like the little boy in that book called The Emperor's New Clothes. He's come to this country, he's reminded British politicians that when it comes to tax, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to law and order, we are naked. And it's taken someone from the outside world to point that out to Keir Starmer for him to realise. I mean, he may not have realised, but it was embarrassing that he had to do it.
Country.
OK, all right, guys, look, sorry about this. We're just going to pause it there because I do have some breaking news to bring you. Yeah, this is breaking in just the last few moments. GB News understands that the suspect in a multiple fatal stabbing in South London today is believed to be a foreign national or dual national. Our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has the detail for us. Mark, thank you very much. So this is breaking news right now. Could you just explain the situation to us, please?
Yeah, this was a shocking incident that unfolded around 1 p.m. on Monday at a business premises in Long Lane in Southwark, not far from London Bridge railway station. Emergency services called to reports of a multiple stabbing at that location. A 58-year-old man, according to the police, died from stab injuries at the scene. A 27-year-old man was taken to hospital and he died a short time later, again we believe from stab injuries, despite the efforts of medics to save him. A third man in his 30s is currently being treated in hospital for what we understand are non-life-threatening stab injuries. And a fourth man, also in his 30s, we're told is the suspect. That suspect is reported to be in a life-threatening condition in hospital, but under police guard. Now, sources have told me that they believe that the suspect is either a foreign national or a dual national. They've been described to me as a non-recent arrival, someone who has been in the UK for quite a number of years, but nothing further to their immigration status beyond that. But clearly, given what has been happening around the country in recent weeks and the tensions surrounding issues around immigration, I think it's important when we know salient points like this to get that kind of information out to the public. We've had a statement from the Metropolitan Police from Detective Superintendent Emma Bond. Now, she leads policing in the Southwark area of London. She said, "Our investigation is in the early stages and we're working hard to understand the full circumstances of this shocking incident." She goes on to say that at this point, we do not believe it to be terrorism related and there's no further risk to the public. She finishes by saying there will be a heavy police presence in the area throughout the rest of the day, and she'd encourage anyone to contact the police if they have relevant information, or indeed to call or communicate with the Metropolitan Police through whatever means. There is a crime scene in place around this area in Long Lane in Southwark. Forensic teams are at the scene at the moment, combing through the area in great detail as they piece together the events of what was clearly a shocking incident. But the breaking news that we can bring to you this evening is GB News sources confirming that the suspect who is being treated in hospital for life-threatening injuries in connection with that multiple fatal stabbing is reported to be either a foreign national or a dual national.
Mark White, our Home and Security editor, thank you very, very much for that breaking information. We'll bring you more as we get it. Well, loads more to crack on with this evening. Well, we're going to be talking rather a lot about Sir Keir Starmer's meeting with President Trump. We decided to get a body language expert in to to just see really what all that squirming was all about. But next.
Suppression of genuine free speech may be upon us already.
This Online Safety Act has already suppressed some reporting about the Pakistani rape gang scandal and about migrant hotel protests. So is Nigel Farage right that he should repeal this Online Safety Act? That's our head-to-head, and it's next.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. So, the Online Safety Act has already blocked conversations about immigration and Pakistani rape gangs. Nigel wants to repeal it. It's time for our head-to-head. Well, that's right. Reform UK today announced that a government led by Nigel Farage would scrap the Online Safety Act, calling it a dystopian assault on free speech and arguing that it actually does nothing to protect children. Let's have a little listen about what Mr Farage and his Doge chief, Zia Youssef, said earlier today.
The Online Safety Act came into being this weekend, which begins to look, although state suppression of genuine free speech may be upon us already.
It does absolutely nothing to protect children. What it does do is suppress freedom of speech in this country and really force social media companies to censor anti-government speech. We think this is the greatest assault on freedom of speech in our lifetimes, and I can announce today that as Prime Minister, Nigel Farage and a reformed government will repeal the Online Safety Act.
Well, as you were hearing there, they claim that the law gives Ofcom dangerous powers to censor online speech, with others raising concerns that anti-immigrant content may also be blocked. But who decides what that is? As well as even restricting access to information on the Pakistani rape gangs. Labour has hit back, accusing Reform of offering anger but no answers. So, well, is Nigel Farage right? Should we repeal this act? I'm joined now by Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Thank you very much, Sarah. I'll start with you. So, go on then. Why should we be repealing this act?
This act, Patrick, is nothing more than censorship and surveillance through the back door. It's called an Online Safety Act, and most people would think, well, what's wrong with that? That sounds good and sensible. But the fact is, what's hidden in the small print is nothing short of quashing our democratic right to free speech. So there's two particular areas of the Act which should be looked at. The first is Section 44. That gives one person, the Secretary of State, the right to direct Ofcom to what it wants, to what the Secretary of State wants to be censored. The second thing that we need to look out for is Section 179, which means that social media companies, if they're not policing this act and looking for anything that may cause some kind of mental, psychological harm, undefined, so that definition is subjective, then they will get potentially fined 10% of their global turnover. So there are two very, very important parts of this act that people won't know about. And you know what? I agree with everything that you heard there from Zia Youssef.
Okay.
This does nothing to protect children.
OK, well, Peter, I do posit it to you that this is slightly Orwellian. It was brought in under the guise of we must protect the kids and we must protect them from things like going on suicide websites and all of that, which I think basically everyone agrees with, right? You should protect kids and you should not allow them to access suicide websites. But the reality is it goes much further than that, doesn't it? And it's already stifling certain discussions about immigration and about the Pakistani rape gangs.
Well, I can assure you that the Online Safety Act does not in any way inhibit free speech. It is designed to protect online users, particularly children, against harmful and illegal content, like pornography, like content that may encourage young people to consider suicide or to engage in eating disorders, bullying, harassment, criminal activity like drug use and trafficking. These are the protections it seeks to provide. But it does not inhibit your right to criticize the government or to say what you want within the law. That's completely exaggerated. And when Nigel Farage was asked, well, what is your alternative? He didn't have any answers. You know, people said, you know, you want to protect children. Well, if you don't agree with this law, what are you going to do instead? And he said, he didn't have any answers.
OK,
that's an admission of failure in my view.
All right, well, let's just pick up on something there. So there's a tweet that we can bring up now, or an X-post, whatever you're supposed to call it these days. So this is Katie Lamb. Now, she happens to be a Conservative MP. She's been very outspoken on the Pakistani rape gang scandal. And she tweeted something here, you know, in the absence of an inquiry about it, you know, there's horrific details that can only come to light through the amazing work of so-and-so. So these are court transcripts, which presumably contain some really quite devastating and no doubt, what would you say, I suppose, disgusting detail about the reality of the problem. And it's got there, due to local laws, we are temporarily restricting access to this content until X estimates your age. Well, Sarah, there's detail there, presumably about the Pakistani rape gangs, that certain people wouldn't like you to know about. And it's being censored, isn't it?
It is being censored, and let's just take a couple of points that Peter made there. The first thing to say is children, or adults under 18, whatever you want to call them, we're now finding that under this Labour government that they have the right to vote from 16, and yet they are having this sort of content restricted, government content. The government is choosing to restrict content. First of all, how can that be? How can that make sense? You can't on the one hand call someone an adult and on the other hand to restrict their content. But what I would say is that we know how capable, how savvy, how IT technical these kids are these days. We've heard already today about how VPNs are being, bought up. The app for VPNs has gone mad today. The kids know how to get around it, and all this act will do is direct our children onto the dark web, where they will see and read far more damaging content. This has not been well thought through. Do not be in any denial about what this act is about. This government has introduced an elite police task force. It can't find police when it comes to arresting shoplifters or knife crime on the streets or stealing our mobile phones, but suddenly it can find an elite task force. And do you know what the point of that task force is? It's to go and search online content to see who might be saying something anti-government, anti-immigrant, or racist.
All right. Well, Peter, can I put this to you? That I think, as Sarah was identifying there, this is part of what I worry is a battery of measures that a government could use to silence things that it doesn't want people to hear about, whether it's anti-immigration or anti-illegal immigration stuff. Whoever decides exactly what that is, by the way, who knows? Things about the Pakistani rape gang scandal, things that all of this stuff that they can now go, bong, there you go. That is against our Online Safety Act, and we have to enforce it. So Peter, would you want to come back to anything that Sarah's just said there?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate concerns about free speech, and as a champion of free speech, including the free speech of people I disagree with, I'd be very concerned if this act was inhibiting free speech, but it's not. You know, people can make their own comments about the Pakistani rape gangs. They quite rightly condemn them and so on.
But they can't release court transcripts online. Because that's the detail. Because they can't, but they can't release court transcripts because that's the detail. When people actually hear the disgusting reality of the situation that happened there, you start to want things like a full national inquiry, which this government railed against for a very long time. And this act has just blocked people from finding out that detail, Peter, and that is quite Orwellian.
Well, I don't think the act has blocked anything because it only just come in. But I agree that everything about the grooming gangs, the rape of children, that must be exposed. The people concerned must be prosecuted. But that's not what this Online Safety Act is about. This is about protecting young kids against grooming and sexual abuse, for example. It's about ensuring that children not accidentally stumble across extreme pornography. I think all parents want their children protected against that. You can say whatever you want, but within these relatively small number of areas, I think the government is right. We don't want young kids being encouraged to go into suicide websites.
We've got to go, I'm afraid.
Eating disorders.
All right, guys, I'm sorry. I know we could carry this on. I'm sorry we overran because we had the breaking news the earlier bit. But look, this is the discussion that's going to be being had for the next weeks and months. So thank you, both of you. It's Reform UK MP for Corner Helsby, Sarah Poaching there. I know had a load more to say on it, as no doubt did Peter Tatchell as well, human rights campaigner. Thank you. All right, coming up, the Lionesses reign victorious in the Euros. But apart from that fantastic result, what I really liked was how unapologetically they expressed their pride in being English. Are the women more patriotic than the men, plus?
If they censor me, you're making a mistake. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone.
I've got a body language expert on to discuss Sir Keir Starmer's squirmathon with the US President next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We've got some severe thunderstorms on the way across many parts of Italy and the Balkans on Monday and Tuesday. But the good news is the extreme heat across Greece and Turkey is slowly easing, though there are unfortunately still a few wildfires around in places. Those showers also across parts of Italy, maybe the Pyrenees as well. But most of Iberia dry, sunny and settled, as indeed it will be across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of sunshine on the way and very warm, if not hot, over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, this is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now there could be some fairly heavy showery rain for some of us, especially towards the south as we go through tomorrow. But before that, we do have a band of rain that's coming in from the west. That's because although we have an Azores high to the southwest of us, there is a frontal system coming over the north of this. And this is going to bring a fair bit of cloud across parts of Northern Ireland as we go through the end of today, and then rain sweeping in. And then that cloud and rain is going to feed into western parts of Scotland, England and Wales as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further east, it's staying dry with some clear skies, under which temperatures may just about dip into single figures. Elsewhere, though, it's a relatively warm night, quite humid as well. Humidity is high to go along with the fairly damp weather across western parts. Then, as we go through tomorrow morning and starting off across much of Scotland, it's actually looking largely dry. A few spots of rain here and there towards the east, but some bright spells too. A wetter, cloudier, greyer picture towards the far west, however. Similar across Northern Ireland, the rain will be starting to push through, but a damp start for many here, and also pretty wet across western parts of England and much of Wales. Some fairly persistent rain, and there could be some heavier outbreaks of rain mixed in with it. Further east, it's a drier start to the day, and there will be some brightness, but as that whole frontal system makes its way gradually southeastwards, we are going to see many places across the east turning cloudier and some outbreaks of rain feeding in. Worth bearing in mind that the rain's going to break up a little bit, turn more showery, but could turn quite heavy across southern parts. Could even be a bit of thunder mixed in, but staying dry towards the northeast of Scotland. As we go through into Wednesday, and that high towards the southwest I mentioned does try to become a bit more dominant. And so whilst there will be some showery bursts of rain around, they're not looking especially heavy. They're going to be quite scattered, and so many of us will stay largely dry with some dry spells in between any of those showers. And then some more changeable weather to come as we go through the end of the week, but some warm sunshine as well. Bye-bye.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Well, let's dip our toes back into what has been the story of the day. President Trump meeting Sir Keir Starmer. We all saw it. Starmer was visibly anxious. Many observers pointed to several nervous gestures, tense hand gestures, etc. And I thought it was the perfect opportunity to do what I like doing in these situations, which is to get the nation's favourite body language expert on, Judy James. And Judy, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. I'm going to fire away with the first clip. So this was the one of the free speech issues.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Judy, go on.
This is comedy gold, isn't it? Because, I mean, you've got Starmer already looking like a rabbit caught in the headlights. I mean, he knew all his corns were going to be trodden on. And as you say, his anxiety rituals are there. He adopted a fig leaf pose at the start here, which is very self-protective. But then as he heard the freedom of speech come up, he did this very strange gesture of brushing the back of his hand. Now, that's an act of distraction. If you've ever seen a cat catch a mouse, it will get to the point of killing. It will suddenly start cleaning itself or scratching to stall for time. But in actual fact, it was more like he was the victim at this point. Then he decides to do incongruent ritual. He puts one hand in his pocket to look casual. He adopts that sickly grin. But then he does this, do you remember Rod Hull and Emu? He does this kind of pinched hand gesture. It's a beaked hand. I noticed you almost did it in the introduction, actually. It's quite contagious. But it implies strong precision, but added to that sickly grin that he was doing, it's totally incongruent.
God, all right, OK. I always have to watch what I do when I'm around you, Judy, actually.
No, yours was good. Yours was nice.
I don't know what to do. This is what happened, I think, was it with Sadiq Khan now? Let's play this.
Not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's
a friend of mine.
No, I think he's done a terrible job, but I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
What do you make of that?
How to get ignored. I don't know if you noticed, but Starmer was actually mimicking Trump's body language at that point. He was doing the knee splay, he got the downward steeple, so he thought he was okay at that point. Then when his friend started to get insulted, you can see suddenly his face drops. And he does that awful, rather embarrassed, he holds his arm out as though to stop Trump. Trump absolutely ignores him. And then we get, again, that rather sweaty comment, he's a friend of mine, but Trump again continued. And the other thing that Trump was doing to him is this kind of thumb jerk that he did to Starmer a few times when Starmer disagreed with him, which is a great put down when somebody, it's like, oh yeah, you know, whatever.
Yeah, dismissive. It's fascinating stuff. I've got one more for you. Now, this, I think, was one of my favourites of the day, really, where President Trump essentially told Sir Keir Starmer what to do if he wanted to win the next election, and then basically described Nigel Farage's manifesto. But anyway, here we go.
You know, politics is pretty simple. I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay, you know, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you know, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime.
What did Starmer's body language tell you there?
He kind of goes from out-of-body experience where he's sitting there but his brain's walked out the room into this kind of schoolboy thing where he leans away. I don't know if you noticed, he just pulled at his tie slightly as well. Very submissive body language. And he ended up doing little micro nods as though he was actually being taught how to win an election. I mean, honestly, I was crying so hard I could barely analyse it. I was crying with laughter at that point. And when he was told that Farage was a good guy, you know, he literally linked completely away at that point. I have to also mention in Dispatches, though, he tried to get that bromance pat going outside. I don't know if you saw that.
Right.
You know that horrendous pat he did when he handed Trump the invitation from the king, and he kind of, you could see him building up to it, and he managed to get one hand on the shoulder, but it was a lightning gesture, and Trump just ignored it and did a handshake instead. I'm sorry, it was very funny.
Well, Judy, thank you very, very much. Absolutely tremendous to have you on, as always. That is the body language expert, the nation's favourite, Judy James. There we are. All right. Well, coming up, interesting story there. So a hotel that was originally given planning permission to boost business travel and add to hospital access hasn't even opened yet, but it looks as though it could now be used to house the homeless. OK, but is it British homeless? Next, though.
Grateful to wear this badge, and I'm so proud to be English.
Unapologetically, easy for me to say, unapologetically expressing their pride in being English, ironically, given that I forgot how to speak the language there for a second. Are the female footballers a little bit more patriotic than the men? Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to say a massive well done to England's Lionesses, who stormed to another historic Euros victory last night. Chloe Kelly and Hannah Hampton really captured the nation's heart, not just for their sporting brilliance, but for wearing their English identity with unapologetic pride.
I'm so proud of this team. So grateful to wear this badge, and I'm so proud to be English.
Brilliant stuff. Goalkeeper Hannah Hampton, the brick wall who denied Spain twice from the spot, echoed that sentiment.
This team's just unbelievable, incredible. We've shown throughout this tournament we can come back when we go a goal down, and we have that grit. We've got English blood in us, so we never say die, and we just keep going, and we did that today.
Oh, you just love to see it, don't you? You just love to see it. I did wonder whether or not we get that kind of unapologetic patriotism from other corners of society. Joining me now is former England footballer, sorry, Mickey Quinn. Mickey, thank you very much. Great to have you on, mate. What do you make of that? I mean, firstly, well done, but what about the fact they've come out straight away and gone, you know, we've got a bit of English blood in us, a bit of English patriotism?
Absolutely brilliant, Patrick. It is. It's a breath of fresh air to me, because they're almost like a throwback to 20, 30 years ago, when it was all about wearing the three-line shirt. With the men, they're more worried about, you know, going into European tours, World Cup competitions, about what their book deal is, or what film they're going to make when they finish, you know, documentary. The Lionesses are a breath of fresh air, and they're wearing the flag, they're wearing the three lines with a lot of pride, and it's refreshing to hear them straight after the game come out and say it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, why do you think it is, though? You know, it was almost, this is a damning indictment of where we are, wasn't it? It's almost a surprise watching that live, you know, going, I'm proud to be English. We've got English blood in us. I was like, flipping out, where's this coming from? I haven't heard a lot of that in Britain recently.
You're right. I mean, you look at the state of the country at the moment, there's not much going on, is there? And I think that's what the Lionesses have brought to the nation. You know, they've kept us on the edge of our seats with the penalty debacle with Sweden, extra time in the semi-finals. They come from behind and scored the equaliser, extra time, penalties again. And you know what? It's that old-fashioned English never say die attitude that I think we can all familiarise with while watching them. Where the men, it's a bit robotic, really, you know, and a certain pattern of play. But it's, you know, they were the second-best team last night, Patrick, but they came out on top with their attitude and spirit, English spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, look, with the men, a lot of the time they've gone to tournaments, it's been a bit overshadowed, but like, are we going to take the knee or not? Or, are we going to wear rainbow laces? Or are we going to do all this, that and the other and everything? And it was nice just to hear a post-match interview. Do you think the men could learn a thing or two about patriotism from those ladies?
I do. I think they definitely need to wind their necks in a little bit. You're right. They're more worried about other things. And I think we can sort of familiarise with the ladies because they're not on hundreds of thousands of pounds, Patrick, like the men. They're there, the spirit, and like I said, they're flying the flag for the English. And they're bringing together as well, what I liked. They're bringing families together to watch the Lionesses, where, the men playing, it's more male-dominated. So there's lots of inspirational, I think, young ladies, girls, who are going to look up to these English women and hopefully wear that Three Lions football shirt themselves.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't mind saying, at some points, no doubt, I've been a little bit scornful of women's football. You mentioned the penalty shootouts sometimes there and all this, that and the other. But I thought, last night I was wrong about that, actually. They've gone out, they've done the business yet again. They've come out straight away and been, proud to be English. I thought, you know what? Absolutely fair play to them. They are trailblazers, and well done. Mickey, we are going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, my good man, but thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Mickey Quinn there, former England footballer, and well done again to the Lionesses. It was great to see that. Well, coming up, we've got loads more coming your way. It looks as though maybe groups like Stand Up to Racism are bussing in agitators, and we've got some evidence of that, we think. But more from Scotland, though, following President Trump's meeting with the Prime Minister, including our very own Bev Turner hammering him over the issue of Britain's farmers. So get ready to watch Sir Keir Starmer squirm again.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, this is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now there could be some fairly heavy showery rain for some of us, especially towards the south as we go through tomorrow. But before that, we do have a band of rain that's coming in from the west. That's because although we have an Azores high to the southwest of us, there is a frontal system coming over the north of this. And this is going to bring a fair bit of cloud across parts of Northern Ireland as we go through the end of today, and then rain sweeping in. And then that cloud and rain is going to feed into western parts of Scotland, England and Wales as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further east, it's staying dry with some clear skies under which temperatures may just about dip into single figures. Elsewhere, though, it's a relatively warm night, quite humid as well. Humidity is high to go along with the fairly damp weather across western parts. Then as we go through tomorrow morning and starting off across much of Scotland, it's actually looking largely dry. A few spots of rain here and there towards the east, but some bright spells too. A wetter, cloudier, greyer picture towards the far west, however. Similar across Northern Ireland, the rain will be starting to push through, but a damp start for many here, and also pretty wet across western parts of England and much of Wales. Some fairly persistent rain, and there could be some heavier outbreaks of rain mixed in with it. Further east, it's a drier start to the day, and there will be some brightness, but as that whole frontal system makes its way gradually southeastwards, we are going to see many places across the east turning cloudier and some outbreaks of rain feeding in. Worth bearing in mind that the rain's going to break up a little bit, turn more showery, but could turn quite heavy across southern parts. Could even be a bit of thunder mixed in, but staying dry towards the northeast of Scotland. As we go through into Wednesday, and that high towards the southwest I mentioned does try to become a bit more dominant. And so whilst there will be some showery bursts of rain around, they're not looking especially heavy. They're going to be quite scattered, and so many of us will stay largely dry with some dry spells in between any of those showers. And then some more changeable weather to come as we go through the end of the week, but some warm sunshine as well. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. Live. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it.
looks like a hostage video from poor Sir Keir Starmer's wife, doesn't it? Day of humiliation for the PM.
No, I'm not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job. The mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's a friend of mine.
Oh, the PM's just batted around by President Trump, and he squirmed throughout.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Oh, yeah, shame then that our very own Bev Turner skewered him about the Orwellian Online Safety Act.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth,
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, Bev Turner herself is still in Scotland for us, and I am very pleased to be going live to her again in just a couple of minutes' time. There's a clip we've not played you there about what she said about the farmers as well. She's earned that glass of something anyway. There we are. In other news.
Yes, a lot of people.
Look, we've been doing a bit of digging here. We think we might have uncovered another site that could be used to house asylum seekers. Plus...
Yeah, I am a Dutch geezer.
Why are you getting so angry for? What do you mean, off you go? I'm just standing in, mate.
Are Stand Up to Racism sending bullies to intimidate citizen journalists? On my panel tonight, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform Party member, former MP Sir Jake Berry. And what's going on here?
Watch as our concert goes horribly wrong.
I'll reveal all. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Watch as Sir Keir Starmer is skewered like a kebab. Next.
Very good evening to you. Let's get you up to date with the latest headlines. Donald Trump's acknowledged there is real starvation happening in Gaza and has urged Israel to allow every ounce of food into the region. He's been holding talks with Sir Keir Starmer as part of a 4-day trip to Scotland. Now, the Prime Minister presented the US President with a European-led Middle East peace plan, which he will discuss in an emergency cabinet meeting tomorrow. Mr. Trump told reporters Israel bears a lot of responsibility for the crisis and contradicted its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who earlier claimed there's no starvation in Gaza. And Mr. Trump also addressed Russia and set Vladimir Putin a new deadline to bring an end to the war in Ukraine.
I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs. I thought he would want to end this thing quickly. I really felt it was going to end. But every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
England's Lionesses have been welcomed home as European champions after their historic victory against Spain. The team were greeted by hundreds of fans at Southend Airport earlier. They beat the Spanish on penalties last night to become the first English team to win a major tournament on foreign soil and the first to win back-to-back titles. There'll be thousands in attendance in central London tomorrow for an open-top bus parade. The Lionesses then attended a special reception at Downing Street, hosted by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, who said they're a shining example of talent and excitement for women's football. Their boss, Serena Wiegmann, used the platform to call for more backing for women's football from the government.
We need some more investment because we're not there yet. In England, like, we're up there, I know that, but England needs to stay the trailblazers, needs to be the big example, the players first, but also the FA, the clubs, the government, the country on its own, with all the fans too, which was incredible too. So let's keep being the trailblazers, let's keep investing together.
Pharmacists are warning surging demand for weight loss injections could soon become unsustainable. A new poll from the National Pharmacy Association has revealed more than a fifth of UK adults and more than a third of those under the age of 35 have tried to access weight loss medication over the past year. Experts, though, say many patients are unsuitable and there's a risk that the injections will be treated like a quick fix. And the King has marked a series of anniversaries linked to the nuclear industry on a visit to Caithness in the north of Scotland. His visit to Scrabster Harbour marks 70 years since engineers at the Dounreay site first began experimenting with nuclear energy. He's also been celebrating 50 years of Pacific Nuclear Transport and 20 years of the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. Those are your headlines. Now it's back to Pat.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. I've got an action-packed hour coming your way. We think we might have uncovered a major site in London that could be used to house asylum seekers. But before we get to that, today was the day that Sir Keir Starmer realised he cannot get away with telling porkies to the world's press anymore. Step forward, our very own Bev Turner.
The President makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both of our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it in all its aspects, upstream, across Europe, where a lot of ours comes into through northern France, across the Channel, working with our allies, with our colleagues to break the gangs that are actually running this trade.
Look, I mean, anyone who watched my show this time last week will realise that that is not really true, is it? The gangs are operating with absolute impunity, and Sir Keir Starmer will not go there to see it for himself, will he? He will not go there. Then Bev Turner mauled him on the farmers.
We're losing a lot of farms to the banks. because a loving mother and father would die and left their farm to their children, and they'd go out and borrow money to pay the estate tax or the death tax, as it's called, and they'd overextend and they'd lose the farm, and they'd commit suicide in many cases.
Yes, and Sir Keir Starmer didn't like that. Did he really? That President Trump offered a solution that protected farmers versus what Sir Keir Starmer's doing here. And then Bev Turner mauled him on free speech.
Free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
We are joined live now by the woman who is shaking up the media landscape, the lady who travelled with President Trump on Air Force One, and the force of nature who skewered Sir Keir Starmer like a doner kebab. She's even become a meme, actually. There we are, you look at that. Keir Starmer hosting a carefully curated softball press conference, arrow in the eye, Bev Turner. Well, she is up in Scotland for us now. Bev, an epic few days for you, but thank you very much for everything today. Can I ask you a little bit about that farmer's question that you asked? So why did you ask that question, and what did you make of the response that you got?
We'd been in there for such a long time. It really is credit to Donald Trump that he just allows the journalists to just talk to him. It's just a conversation. It's wonderful. And I think Keir Starmer he's not used to it. Just not used to giving the press that sort of unlimited access. So I was just standing there thinking, what do I feel really strongly about? What do we, as our channel, what does the GB News family feel strongly about? British farmers. And I just thought, right, here we go. I'm just going to ask him about it. And I didn't know, what I didn't realise is how strongly Donald Trump feels about farmers. And he just went there. He said, you know, we've stopped all taxes for farmers because farmers were literally committing suicide. They were killing themselves. And I said, so have we. And Keir Starmer stepped in and said, oh, no, that's not true. Well, it is true. There's been coroner's reports of at least one farmer that took his own life because of the pressure over the financial situation with the change to inheritance tax. You know, we love our farmers. They need to still be heard. They are still suffering with all of this. It's gone quite quiet, and I am very prepared to keep it in the headlines.
I thought that was a really bad moment for Sir Keir Starmer to jump in there as President Trump raised the suicide issue, because Sir Keir Starmer will know about that, and you're right to point to that coroner's report, and he jumped straight in as if to be like, oh, no, we have a very different situation here. And actually then President Trump followed it up again, didn't he, by saying he provided a solution where basically the farmers, essentially in America, is that right, they don't really pay inheritance tax, is that right?
Yeah, he literally scrapped state tax, or I think they call it estate tax, sorry, on that kind of property. They just ended it because they knew that farmers are important, and that was my question to him: how important are farmers? And they got rid of it. And so imagine if we could do that for our farmers, what statement it would make about how important our own homegrown produce is, because you know, that's such a massive part. And they've flown over, you know, they've flown over all the farmland getting here, all the beautiful landscape of Scotland. And Donald Trump has taken a massive swipe at wind turbines, or windmills as he calls them. And I'm not surprised, because the horizon in Scotland is covered with wind turbines. And he makes a really good point. It was super awkward as well for Keir Starmer, who is a big fan, obviously, of all of the eco-generating energy sources, eco-energy sources. And Donald Trump said, you know, we drill a hole in the ground and we get everything out of it that we need, and it doesn't mess up the horizon. And Starmer had nothing. He just looked so uncomfortable. Rather than taking him on, I would have respected him more if he'd actually owned it and said, no, we don't feel like that. Like, we think about the planet. We don't believe in your use of fossil fuels. We don't do that anymore. But he didn't even do that. And we're in Great Britain, remember?
That's a great point, because he never took him on. He never took him on. So what he'll do is he'll sit there squirming in that metaphorical cuckolding chair and let President Trump talk to him about all this stuff and just try to minimise any damage. And then when President Trump leaves, he'll tell us about how great these wind turbines are and how great all the eco stuff that Ed Miliband's doing is. So that was fascinating, I thought, Bev. He didn't want a row. If you really have conviction in your views and your beliefs, Bev, you'd be willing to take anyone on, wouldn't you?
Exactly. I wanted a row. I wanted a row with him about these things, and in some ways it's a bit frustrating in that situation because it's not meant to be a debate. You know, we're part of the international media pool, and so really you're only meant to have one question. You're not really supposed to kind of go back and tell him he's wrong, but I just couldn't resist it a couple of times because I actually felt like Donald Trump respected that. I think he does respect that if you're prepared as a journalist. And in fact, he even said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
It was like, you know, when you're in the assembly and the headmaster will say, "What's your name? You wrote a really nice poem." It felt a bit like that. The headmaster went, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm with GBNews. I'm Bev Turner." He was like, "They're lucky to have you." And I was like, "Well, thank you. We are lucky, frankly, to have GB News, to be there on a day like that, asking all the questions which, you know, weren't occurring to other people."
Just a couple more with you, Bev. I know you've had a really long day, but I'm fascinated by everything that went on. I think Sir Keir Starmer has got away with lying to President Trump about how much he's doing to tackle illegal immigration. And, you know, President Trump said quite early on, oh, he's doing lots to stop the boats and he's doing lots to tackle illegal immigration. I mean, we know that's not true, right? I mean, this time last week, I was literally stood in Calais just showing how easy it is to meet up with these human traffickers and get them. And he wasn't doing anything about that as far as I could tell. Do you think that's one area really where President Trump should be a bit more aware of about the state of illegal immigration in Britain? What do you think?
Well, I've been turning the same question over in my head, actually, Patrick, because when he got off the plane on Friday, my second question to him actually was about migration being such an issue here, with him having solved illegal migration so categorically in America. I think it's so interesting to raise that with the two of them. But today, when I mentioned about it, he didn't seem to understand the boats. I think it might have been Chris Hope, actually, who asked him that question when they were on the steps. It was Chopper who asked him that. And Trump sort of said, I don't really know what you mean, and got Starmer to explain it. Now, it's hard to know with Donald Trump whether he doesn't know what he's talking about or whether he's just actually being quite diplomatic and quite kind at that point. His guests had just arrived at the house. Was he just sort of pretending that he wasn't aware of the boats crisis, or maybe he just isn't as aware? We are, because we see it in the papers here, but it might be that he genuinely isn't as aware. He's aware of mass immigration because he said, didn't he, on Friday, that mass immigration is killing Europe, was the word that he used. But it's hard to tell whether he really fully is briefed on that. And yeah, Keir Starmer wasn't going to explain it to him, was he?
Well, no, why would you? So, look, I've got to ask you, what was it like on Trump Force 1 then? And then I will release you off into the Scottish evening, Bev. But what was it like on Trump Force 1? You know, what kind of stuff were you able to get out of Trump on there? And, as well, I can't wait for, you know, however long we've got of you in the White House, highlighting these differences between our two great nations, you know, in the weeks and months to come. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what we can expect there as well?
Yeah, the journey on Air Force One, I go back on it tomorrow, actually, Patrick, was remarkable. And it's not just being part of that sort of that retinue, basically, the big team of you that jump on the aeroplane. You're surrounded by Secret Service. It's a case of go, 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 and you run. I mean, you literally, it's hilarious. You run onto the plane. There's a guy with a piece of paper who ticks your name off a list on a piece of paper. In some ways, it's incredibly incredibly uncomplicated, but in other ways, you know that behind the scenes there's a lot going on. So the plane itself is remarkable. One of the bits I think that I found most incredible was being part of the convoy of the motorcade. So when you get off Air Force One, you're then put into all of these blacked out vehicles and you whisked through the streets where you don't stop for a roundabout, you don't stop for a traffic light. You know, it's an amazingly thrilling experience. And then today, when we got off, we actually did Air Force One from where have I been? Turnberry, from Glasgow to Aberdeen. That's a very short flight, and we did that in Air Force One, which is kind of ridiculous, but I don't think there was any other way that they could do that. We got off there, we were then ushered onto Chinook helicopters, which was mental. And we got on the helicopters. That was just amazing. Everyone's given earplugs. And when we went in a convoy of helicopters through the sky and then landed at the golf course here in Aberdeen, sorry. And then I'll be at Aberdeen at the golf course. I've got a call time of 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Wow.
And we'll be back down there to see Trump. He's going to play some golf. He might talk to us. I think he's opening a memorial to his mother, actually. And he talks about his mother quite a lot today. And And then I will be back on Air Force One, and I will bring as much of it to you as I possibly can on GB News. We've got tons of stuff on our socials. If people haven't seen our Twitter or Instagram or the YouTube site, go and have a look on that, because we've got loads of stuff on there as well.
Well, look, Bev, thank you, honestly, really, just for everything that you've been doing today. And what a wonderful insight that is into what we've got in store for the nation and actually the world as well here at GB News, because we're in the room now when it comes to talking to the President, and we're going to be putting those kind of questions to him. Bev Turner there, well done. Sleep well for the next, 4 hours. Right, let's get thoughts on my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've also got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and Reform Party member and former MP Sir Jake Berry. Carol, can I drill down on some of those questions there that the Bev asked, especially about the farmers?
If only we could hear. We couldn't hear anything.
Oh, right, OK. Well,
no.
she asked about the farmers and the inheritance tax and what Trump had done and all of that stuff. And basically, Trump said that he's essentially scrapped tax. I mean, I don't know if did you see this clip?
Yeah, so I saw this. It was really interesting. There was a 50% duty, inheritance tax duty, they call it, state taxes in the United States on farmers. And Trump made the point when he was asked the question. He said the reason that he's abolished this, taken it down to zero in the United States, is what it meant was when asset-rich, cash-poor farmers, as President Trump described them, died, they then had to sell their land holding or their farm, and it was being land banked with these big land companies in the United States. And, of course, with the family farm tax just coming into force here in the United Kingdom, this is exactly what's going to happen in the UK. And again, it was another humiliation for Keir Starmer. One of the most memorable things of Rachel Reeves' first budget, you had President Trump here in the United Kingdom saying, look, you've done the wrong thing, you should be reversing this tax.
Yeah. And it was part of a basket of stuff, Benjamin, which I can see you kind of rolling your eyes at there, where Trump basically said, look, if you want to win the election, you need to lower taxes, you need to secure your borders, and you need to cut down on crime. And all Keir Starmer could say is that eat cars, my mate.
Well, I think that's a little unfair. Look, they have a fantastic relationship, a quite remarkably good relationship.
You can't possibly know that they have a fantastic relationship.
Well, I just listened to Mr Trump himself.
This is pretend stuff. What's he going to do when he's sitting 2 feet away from a guy in a small room? He's not going to say he's an idiot.
So, Benjamin, we say we like you on GB News. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
This is idiotic. This is play acting.
No, because Donald Trump
cannot possibly like Starmer, knowing what a weak man he is.
So why does he say that constantly?
Because he doesn't say it constantly. He says it when he's in his presence. He does not say it constantly.
He said it in and out of his presence, and I think we should be grateful for that if we're patriotic, that relationship is so strong. But actually, you know, the idea that somehow the British Prime Minister should be a lapdog in domestic policy decisions on a landslide victory, which is what Keir Starmer's Labour government got, the idea he should change those because a foreign leader disagrees, I don't think that
isn't that kind of the point?
I think that's weakness.
No, but sorry, isn't actually the kind of the point that he didn't actually push back on anything. So when Trump was saying to me,
what's that going to achieve?
Basically, well, you can't have it both ways, mate. You know, you can't go, oh, well, you know, he shouldn't be a lapdog to him. But then at the same time, Sir Keir Starmer, who is trying to desperately make the case to us for things like, well, you know, these wind turbines are great and we need to go full electric. When President Trump is putting the other case across there, Carol, you know, but Keir Starmer doesn't say anything to him about it. He just sits there. He'll wait for the president to go, and then he'll just unleash Ed Miliband onto us again.
Every single thing Donald Trump said about the way this country should be run was absolutely right.
Correct.
About, you know, restart the drilling in the North Sea for oil and gas, get rid of the wind turbines. He said they're a con. He's absolutely right. He said, you know, the person who will win the next general election is the person who takes on immigration and who lowers taxes. Keir Starmer is doing none of those things. In fact, he's doing the polar opposite of those things. And the idea that the president does not know that is farcical. Of course he knows he's not doing his job properly, but he can't say that while he's here on a visit. And remember, he has a state visit to come, so he's not going to burn all his bridges in this country. And plus, he needs this country as well. But we need him more. But to see our Prime Minister sitting there like a mute lapdog, looking like he looked like he was chewing on a wasp when Trump was speaking.
Call me old-fashioned.
Can I just
call me old-fashioned? But I don't think you should be making policy while sat on a golf course.
He wasn't making policy.
Can I just say how much I like Benjamin? What a great job he's doing of defending the indefensible. But what I actually thought was extraordinary, just to move away from the theatre of it, is these very long press conferences that Donald Trump does, an hour and 10 minutes, 70 minutes, all comers. It was like a sort of, you know, a sort of circus boxing ring where you could jump in and spar with him for a couple of seconds. The only other politician, of course, who does that, and Keir Starmer didn't know how to deal with it, and there's reports of the number 10 press team being in absolute blind panic because it went on for an hour and 10 minutes. So what's he going to say next? Yeah. The only other politician who does that is, of course, Nigel Farage. Yep. And he has learned so much from Donald Trump. He does these very long press conferences. He says, no more questions, come on, keep coming to me. Yep. And actually, I think the public really like that, because they get to see the real Donald Trump, in that case, the real Nigel Farage. I think the British public are fed up with these overly choreographed, short questions. And let's be honest, you know this, and everyone on this panel knows this, the press sit together beforehand and agree what questions each one's going to ask. And what we've seen is Bev chucking a hand grenade in today and saying, there's a new gaffer in town, this is about to change.
Exactly, and this is going to be the big thing. And we got a big flavour of it today, right? So was it Adam Bolton, yesterday's man, who talks about the delicate broadcast media ecology? Well, I'll tell you what, we're about to shake that up, because Bev Turner's going to be unleashed into the White House pretty much every single day at their daily press briefings. And what that means is that when Sir Keir Starmer does something over here that people don't particularly like, we go and we can highlight that with the American president. And the American president is going to give a statement on it. And Keir Starmer is going to continually have to respond about why he's doing these things, whether it's to do with free speech, whether it's to do with illegal immigration,
but all that will
whatever.
confirm, Patrick, is he's the wrong man to lead this country. We know that already. We don't even need anything else. We know he's the wrong man. We saw it today. He's weak.
It will seriously test whether or not President Trump actually really likes Keir Starmer, whether he just says it when there are cameras around and he's in Britain. But anyway, it is the final week to see how you could become £54,321 richer. It's our biggest cash giveaway. Lines close on Friday, the 1st of August. So make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you need.
There's just 4 days left to see how you could bank our biggest cash prize to date. £54,321 in tax-free cash is up for grabs in our summer Great British giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. All of that cash could send you on a holiday, boost your savings, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, very shortly, we're going to reveal to you what tomorrow's newspaper front pages make of that Starmer-Trump visit. But next...
Yeah, I am. Why are you getting so angry for? What do you mean, off you go? I'm just standing in, mate.
I wonder whether or not Stand Up to Racism are bussing in agitators to essentially accost citizen journalists. The man in that video, not the agitator, joins us very shortly, and I think we might have uncovered a new asylum seeker facility, potentially in central London. Stay tuned.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Yeah, so I got the news on 4th of April, right in between GB Team Selection Series, which hurt even more because I was leading in the points. But all of a sudden, I get a phone call being told you're banned from attending any part of UK premises, banned from speaking with your teammates or staff, which was the most brutal part of it, and suspended, or whatever word you want to use.
not think, though, Kurt, that, you know, posting subscription-only saucy content online might get you in a little bit of trouble? Or did it not cross your mind?
No, for sure. But I want to make it clear that I have tried things in the past. I've been living life on the edge so many years. We moved from Latvia in 2010, been living life on the edge since then, done everything from working freelance long into the long nights, working at the Amazon warehouse. I have seeked out other alternatives. But in December last year, I got to a point, a realization where I thought, is it worth it? Or can I find an alternative? And I knew of other GB athletes doing it. I didn't think it was going to cause outrage like this.
Yeah, because I was thinking, you know, a nice chap like you, who's obviously very talented with your sport, you could make some money doing, you know, like online fitness training or personal training and things like that don't involve, you know, getting your kit off.
No, for sure. I've been making content for like 6-7 years now. Over 1,000 of the pieces of content have been inspirational, motivational. I've visited over 30 schools in the UK, going to the hardest parts of the UK, inspiring kids from underprivileged backgrounds to get into sport. I've tried that, but I don't know. I found that in this day and age, unless you are smart or find some little controversial thing you can hold on to, it's going to be hard to get attention and sponsorship.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. So a brand new multi-million-pound luxury 4-star hotel development could be used to house asylum seekers who've been given indefinite leave to remain. That's according to the Home Office. So the London Hotel Group had planning permission originally for a large hotel in Tooting. Now, they said that it would uplift the local community, bring more than £1 million a year to local businesses through football, business events, that kind of stuff. Well, tonight, there was a meeting of the local Wandsworth Council, and it looks like they now want to use it as temporary accommodation for, quote, homeless families. Now, look, hey, if it's for genuine homeless people from the local area, then I think many people will say fair enough. But will that really be the case? The London Hotel Group's managing director is a man called Gawar Nawab, who was previously described by the Daily Mail as Britain's migrant hotel king. The London Hotel Group also runs several Best Western hotels, which have been taken over by the Home Office for asylum seekers. For example, the Best Western Peckham Hotel was used by the Home Office to accommodate asylum seekers. In May 2024, a planned transfer of asylum seekers from that hotel to the Bibby Stockholm barge was met with protests that led to several arrests and the cancellation of the transfer. The Best Western London Wembley Hotel is reportedly being used to house asylum seekers. Because the Best Western London Queen's Crystal Palace Hotel was also reportedly used to house asylum seekers. So one thing that is also interesting is that the London Hotel Group appears to have donated thousands of pounds to the local MP, who is Labour's Dr Rosina Allen Khan. Now, Dr Allen Khan's office has reiterated that all donations are declared according to the rules set out by Parliament and the Electoral Commission. Rosina receives donations from a variety of people and companies who support her campaigns. And I want to stress as well that, you know, there's no obvious wrongdoing there or anything. I just thought it was quite an interesting point. And in recent days, there have been protests about some migrant sites, like the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf, being used potentially as an overflow site for illegal immigrants. Now, I would urge people who are listening to the report that I'm just giving you tonight to not go and protest outside this site in Tooting that we're saying, because it is very much a grey area for the reason I'm about to outline. We went to the Home Office. They said it's not going to be a migrant hotel, but then we pushed them on it. And we said, they said, that it may be used to house foreign nationals, but if they've been given indefinite leave to remain, because what happens is people in asylum hotels who are given indefinite leave to remain are then often at imminent risk of homelessness. And it becomes the responsibility of the local council to potentially house them somewhere. And I wonder if this is what's going to happen here. We did send someone to the local council meeting tonight. That's the original thing there. We did send someone to the local council meeting tonight. It still remains a grey area. The council has taken out a 6-year lease on this place, apparently. That's what they want to do, take out a 6-year lease. And they are saying that that's what that's for. We'll have to wait and see who's going to be housed there. But the fact is, this is a whopping great big development that has never opened its doors to anyone. It was originally given planning permission for use as a luxury hotel that would have brought money to the local area. And now it's going to be used for homeless families with no guarantee that those families are British. So we've approached Wandsworth Council for comment. They said homeless support is a council priority. So this is long-term agreement, secures good quality accommodation for our own borough, and we will meet the needs of locally connected families, etc. At present, we sadly cannot provide all such families accommodation in the borough. At the same time, having predictable costs could save the council and the taxpayer up to £6 million over the course of this agreement. So look, I wanted to highlight that to you because I wanted you to just keep an eye on this and watch this space about if we're going to see large sites used for that kind of thing. But in other news, we've seen various different protests over the weekend, and I just wanted to bring you this clip.
Yeah, I am a go skeezer. Why are you getting so angry? What do you mean off you go? I'm just standing here, mate. What do you mean off you go? I'm just standing here. Bye-bye, mate.
I don't disappoint in gas chambers, mate.
Yeah, mate. He's not harassing you. Well, what's he doing? I'm just standing, he's putting his hand out at me.
Looks like that adults. Come on, we can sort this out. He's allowed to film. You're allowed to film.
I don't think it was an adult. Right? There you go, mate. There's the law. You feel fair, mate. You're following me around, mate. Mate, you're
are we going to stand here all day?
We're licensed security.
Yeah, but he can film. He can film.
Mate, that's public security, mate, not you. Stop. No, I didn't do nothing wrong. I wanted to up in there.
Well, I'm joined now by the independent journalist and YouTuber Wesley Winter, who was the non-aggressive man in that clip. And Wesley, could you just explain to our viewers and listeners, please, where were you there? What was going on? And did they bus someone in to be a bit of an agitator?
Well, I was just outside Epping Station. That's the reason why I was there. I wanted to see firsthand, are they bringing them by bus, police van, or are they actually coming via the tube? But as you saw from that clip, we're just outside Epping Station. All the protesters gathered there where they had various speeches, but just on the edge of that were paid security. And as you saw there was that man who was very, very aggressive.
So you think they were paid? You think he's paid to be there?
Yeah.
By who? By who?
Obviously, Stand Up to Racism, they're obviously funded by the unions who are in bed with the Labour Party. I think that is common knowledge by a lot of people. And that man there, I've been told now, is called Paul Sillett, who's apparently a security guard for Stand Up to Racism, has been for many years, allegedly. And on that day, he was clearly just paid to shut down press and freedom of speech.
So what was his argument? I mean, it pains to stress that this guy is obviously not here to defend himself. He might deny that he's paid and he might deny he's part of the group, whatever. But he didn't like you there just filming, did he, at all? Why not? What was his point?
I think the point was that they just didn't want anyone to be there in terms of anyone with a camera. I went just to film a couple of signs, and then that man was just called over and he was like, oh, I know this guy and this and that, and I'd never spoken to him properly before up until that point, and he just wasn't happy with my presence. Apparently from the clip, I was quite provocative just by being there.
He looked quite intense. He was chewing his gum. He looked like a man who was ready to go, didn't he, really? And, you know, there you go. Very red in the face as well. You can read into that what you will. But I just thought, you know, is that he's got a Stand Up to Racism jersey on, forcing you away. I mean, eventually the police did actually tell him to do one, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the police were very fair. I mean, you always hear about two-tier police and all these sort of phrases get thrown around, but there it was clear as day who the agitator was. And obviously we are in a public tube station. Anyone can be where they want.
And I can't help but wonder whether or not this is part of it. You know, one thing that's been highlighted, and you've been doing great work in this regard, but one thing I think has been highlighted recently, especially in Epping, was the role that some of Stand Up to Racism play, I would argue, as agitators. So you end up with a load of local people who are there, who have got very strong views, predominantly about the safety of their own children and women, which I think is quite a basic human instinct, actually. And then people turn up, maybe tried to... I mean, I think he kind of wanted you to hit him there a bit. I think he was looking a little bit aggy.
Yeah.
You know, and on another day, I mean, it's probably not in your nature, but on another day, someone might have reacted to that, and then it becomes this big thing, doesn't it? And then it's like, you know, journalist punches a peaceful stands race.
Right.
So we need to watch out for these people, don't we, I think?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely there to, you know, not just be security, but have an ulterior motive. And I think that just speaks for itself. Getting very close to me. Obviously, I wasn't retaliating. The police are there to do their job, and rightly so, on the day they did. If you actually was there at the protest, you would notice that it was from 2 to 8. The protest was meant to be on for. The Stand Up to Racism crowd actually left quite early, and you have to raise the question, why did they leave early? Is it because they weren't getting the reaction they wanted, or was it time to get the bus home? Who knows?
Yes. How did they leave? I'm interested. They just walked
to the station. As you'll see in maybe a few days from my video, how that panned out as they were leaving. But yeah, it was just a police escort in terms of this kind of accosted them back to there.
This is fascinating. God, what is your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so Wesley Winter. Some of you viewers may be watching are familiar with the channel, but yeah, Wesley Winter just on YouTube.
Yeah, this is another great turning point in Britain, really, actually, as we see people like Wesley. I think obviously some people at GBNews, people like Adam Brooks as well, who've been doing this stuff, where we actually start to shine a bit of light on the tactics of these groups that have flown under the radar for a very long time. What is it that Stand Up to Racism are all really about, you know? So there we go. Wesley, thank you very much, and well done with doing what you're doing as well. Wesley Winter there. Look, again, I'll just say that that individual there might deny that he's paid by Stand Up to Racism, might deny that he's an agitator, all of that stuff. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Coming up, though, yeah, tomorrow's newspapers' front pages, plus...
Watch as our concert goes horribly wrong.
Stick around to find out what's going on there. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there. We've got some severe thunderstorms on the way across many parts of Italy and the Balkans on Monday and Tuesday. But the good news is the extreme heat across Greece and Turkey is slowly easing, though there are unfortunately still a few wildfires around in places. Those showers also across parts of Italy, maybe the Pyrenees as well. But most of Iberia dry, sunny and settled, as indeed it will be across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of sunshine on the way and very warm, if not hot, over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good evening, this is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now there could be some fairly heavy showery rain for some of us, especially towards the south as we go through tomorrow. But before that, we do have a band of rain that's coming in from the west. That's because although we have an Azores high to the southwest of us, there is a frontal system coming over the north of this. And this is going to bring a fair bit of cloud across parts of Northern Ireland as we go through the end of today, and then rain sweeping in. And then that cloud and rain is going to feed into western parts of Scotland, England and Wales as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further east, it's staying dry with some clear skies, under which temperatures may just about dip into single figures. Elsewhere, though, it's a relatively warm night, quite humid as well. Humidity is high to go along with the fairly damp weather across western parts. Then, as we go through tomorrow morning and starting off across much of Scotland, it's actually looking largely dry. A few spots of rain here and there towards the east, but some bright spells too. A wetter, cloudier, greyer picture towards the far west, however. Similar across Northern Ireland, the rain will be starting to push through, but a damp start for many here, and also pretty wet across western parts of England and much of Wales. Some fairly persistent rain, and there could be some heavier outbreaks of rain mixed in with it. Further east, it's a drier start to the day, and there will be some brightness, but as that whole frontal system makes its way gradually southeastwards, we are going to see many places across the east turning cloudier and some outbreaks of rain feeding in. Worth bearing in mind that the rain's going to break up a little bit, turn more showery, but could turn quite heavy across southern parts. Could even be a bit of thunder mixed in, but staying dry towards the northeast of Scotland. As we go through into Wednesday, and that high towards the southwest I mentioned does try to become a bit more dominant. And so whilst there will be some showery bursts of rain around, they're not looking especially heavy. They're going to be quite scattered, and so many of us will stay largely dry with some dry spells in between any of those showers. And then some more changeable weather to come as we go through the end of the week, but some warm sunshine as well. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens. Opinion and debate
and, of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's give you the first snapshot of the front pages for tomorrow. The Metro, it's come home again. They've gone on the Lionesses' Euros victory. The iPaper, you can't fake that starvation. Trump and UK send new Gaza warning to Israel. The Daily Express, Trump's pretty simple advice for PM. Lower taxes, stop crime, cut illegal immigration and protect farmers. I think that Bev Turner asked all of those questions, actually, but there we go. The Mirror, Daily Mirror, for my brother, in honour of Barney and Grace, siblings' bravery amid the unimaginable pain at graduation ceremonies for Nottingham victims. So, tears flowed at the graduation ceremonies held yesterday for the murdered Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar. They were, of course, murdered by Valdo Calacane, who frankly actually shouldn't have even been here. But anyway, The Guardian, Trump urges Israel to let food aid into Gaza. They've also got the picture story of the Lionesses on the steps of Downing Street. The Daily Telegraph, Trump cut taxes and stop the boats. Then we've got the Daily Mail, Trump tells Starmer how to see off Farage. Then the Sun, they've gone big on the Lionesses' Euros victory. Right, well, we've got a new face for us for this segment. Calvin McKenzie joins us early. He's also going to be with us for the late edition show later on. Still got Benjamin and still got Sir Jay. Calvin, I'll just get your initial take, really, on you know, the Trump stuff we've seen. It's obviously on a few of the front pages. What do you make of Trump-Starmer?
Well, to be honest with you, it reduces our Prime Minister, to be fair. And what Trump said, you know, reduce taxation, stop the boats and help the farmers out, because as the point that Trump was making about the farmers was that I did it in America because I didn't like the idea of horrible financiers grabbing farms all over our country. And actually, I hadn't heard that argument put so well by anybody. So I found it an impressive political diatribe from Trump. And there was our Prime Minister, who's done completely the opposite over the last year, right? Taxes have gone up, the farmers have been thrown to the wolves, and actually illegal immigration has grown by 50%. He's just sitting there like a stuffed pimento, right, as watching his policies being torn apart by, quotes, his friend, the US Prime Minister. I found it reducing for our nation, to be honest, to be shown up in that way.
Yeah, Jake, I mean, do you think it was reducing for us to see, you know, everyone at home can make their own minds up about whether or not they'd rather be led by the kind of man that President Trump is or the kind of man that Sir Keir Starmer is?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was thinking outside, he was a bit like sort of Lord Charles. Do you remember that puppet that sat on Trump, or on the knee of the entertainer? And he was a bit like that with Trump. He was probably a bit more wooden than Lord Charles normally was. But what I think is really interesting about that press conference is it's the same advice that the media, that actually people were giving to Rishi Sunak before the last election, which Rishi Sunak failed to do. Sky-high taxes, sky-high immigration, sky-high crime rates. It's the same advice being given to Keir Starmer by President Trump now, and actually the majority of public opinion with the British people. And if Starmer doesn't listen to it, he is not going to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after the next general election. So, and I don't want him to be, by the way, but if Labour MPs and Labour politicians want him to win, they now need to come back in September after their recess and put pressure on Starmer to do these sorts of things. Yeah. If he doesn't, the writing's on.
Well, I mean, that Daily Telegraph front page we've got on the screen there, only way to beat Farage is to end migrant crisis and ease the burden for families, the Prime Minister is told. Well, he's not going to do that, is he? No. He's not going to do it, Ben.
Well, it's good news because immigration has halved and the number of people in migrant hotels is down 30% year on year.
But where have they gone, Ben?
So he's doing exactly that. Well, some of them have been sent home
gone?
because you've got record numbers of people being kicked out of the country, and some of them have
been paid to leave, Andrew. They can't answer. They can't answer how many small boat migrants have been deported. They can't tell us.
Well, we know that the biggest flights to deport people ever have been under the Labour government. So, you know, that is progress.
So, but Benjamin, sorry.
But can I just point out, actually, the logic that Trump gives that you don't want financiers to buy up farms, that was exactly the reason why getting rid of the inheritance tax loop for farms was the right idea, because most of the farmland in this country in the most recent years' records were not bought by farmers, they were bought as investment vehicles to avoid inheritance tax.
So there's three things you've made up. So first of all, the idea that migration has gone down by half, well, it kind of depends what you look at. But illegal migration, the number of people crossing the UK is higher than ever it was. It hasn't gone down by 30%.
Last year... I didn't say either of those things. I said legal migration has halved and the number of people in migrant hotels is down by 30%.
Well, OK. Well, so, again, that's not true because last year there were 213 migrant... Well, exactly. That's the reason it's not true. There were 213 migrant hotels open. Now it has gone down slightly. There are 210. Right. It's still completely unacceptable.
We're going to whiz ourselves on because I want to get to some more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, give you the first sight of them. And apparently, Nadine Dorries has said that she's done the weight loss jabs, which she said was great, and now her hair's falling out. So stay tuned.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Allergy practitioner Dr. Claire Anyamasigwe joins us now. Good to see you this morning.
Very good.
Does the hot weather necessarily mean more pollen?
It does. It actually accelerates the issue. So you've got pollen from the trees, from the grass, you've got pollution, and now you've got the heat wave as well. So that concoction flares up the skin, especially around the nostrils. We're streaming, we're sniffling, we're itching our eyes. So for me, as an allergist, my practice is about advocating for plant-based antihistamines. So I think the prep starts the night before. You're washing the clothes that you've worn the night, during the day, so you're not bringing pollen into the home. You are eating quercetin-rich ingredients like leeks, garlic, kale. So you can make yourself a lovely soup. I would say use them together. If you are somebody that already eats quercetin-rich foods in your diet, you're doing a more plant-based diet, then you're ahead of the game. But if you're not and you've suddenly been hit this week, 26 Celsius is going higher every day. 16 million of us are suffering with hay fever. 3.4 million of that have hay fever and asthma. So for those sufferers, they're looking for a solution right now. I would combine the two. I would start changing my diet to match what I've suggested, and I would also do what your GP suggests.
Do any of these things, if you take them year in, year out, do they lessen do they have an impact over time and you become less reactive to pollen?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm really advocating for children. If we can get parents watching this to start children with natural raw honey, so find out about your local beekeepers, start spreading your natural jams.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back. One more front page for you now, and it's the Times, and they have gone for BMA risking lives by refusing to let striking doctors work. So I'm going to go straight to Kelvin on this. What do you make of that?
Oh, well, it's a shocking tale. So BMA England have this thing called a derogation, an exemption, in which they go to the doctors and say, look, somebody's really dying there, that baby's fighting for their life, or we've had a triple crash on the M25. Can you come and help? Right, i.e. abandon your picket line and come in. So they've made, the Times says that they've made 47 such requests since the strike started last Friday, but only 9 were agreed to by the doctors.
Well, they're killing people there, surely.
Well, I certainly hope that's not true, and I hope it's none of our families or even our friends or whatever. But obviously they are carrying out this strike as though they are miners, railwaymen, or people who drive trains for the print unions. By the way, it would have been none with them. They were absolute pigs of the most vile variety.
People don't hold a grudge.
But you won.
They hold a grudge against me. They hold a grudge against me. They tried to attack me at Lingfield Racecourse. How about that? Anyway, the point I'm making is that the doctors have descended into the gutter. Okay. They didn't have far to go last year, and this year, honestly, nobody supports them, and the way they're acting is a disgrace.
OK, well, we have got a whole other hour to rattle through all of these front pages. We've got Calvin staying with us, Benjamin is staying with us. I think Leo Kearse is with us as well. Just seen him in the studio, so if it's not him, then I'm not quite sure what he's doing here. But we've got the Times for you on the BMA side of it. How do you feel about the idea that if your loved one or a baby or someone who's been, someone who's having a stroke, they call the BMA and they say, can you get off that picket line? Can you get in there and do your job? And the BMA say, don't you dare move. I'm sorry, but at what point does that become manslaughter? Actually, we'll talk about that. A load of the other national newspapers are going off on the Lionesses, a fabulous victory by the Lionesses. Also a bit of unabridged patriotism from some of them as well, the likes of which, some of the men's team, unfortunately, too busy taking the knee and talking about rainbow armbands to do that kind of thing. But the big story in town is the kind of, unrelenting squirmathon that we saw from Sir Keir Starmer versus President Trump. President Trump made it all look so easy, didn't he? So we're going to be playing your clips from now. We're going to be talking about the advice he's been given to our Prime Minister. And I love the fact that he got really royally stuck in to Sadiq Khan, everyone's least favourite mayor, apart from Sir Keir Starmer, who's his friend. Wouldn't have admitted that if I were you, Prime Minister. That's next.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, there could be some fairly heavy showery rain for some of us, especially towards the south as we go through tomorrow. But before that, we do have a band of rain that's coming in from the west. That's because although we have an Azores high to the southwest of us, there is a frontal system coming over the north of this. And this is going to bring a fair bit of cloud across parts of Northern Ireland as we go through the end of today, and then rain sweeping in. And then that cloud and rain is going to feed into western parts of Scotland, England and Wales as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Further east, it's staying dry with some clear skies, under which temperatures may just about dip into single